Compelling characters wouldn't exist without the inclusion of relatability in fiction. Ike, a lord from the Fire Emblem series, wouldn't exist with the down-to-earth and humble disposition he's popular for. Without it, he'd just be another generic hero following the pre-constructed flowchart. But what makes a character relatable, and why does it truly matter? When I talk about relatability, I don't mean a character arc has to mirror the trials and tribulations of our reality. I mean, in the case of Fire Emblem, these are stories in a medieval setting. It's impossible to relate to the lifestyle of someone who still needs a candlelight. That's where theming comes into play. It's a powerful tool that bridges fiction and reality, as it can apply aspects from our world to the fictional world, augmenting the story told. Ike could have just been yet another noble brat whose birthright was to ascend the throne. But no, he was just a guy. The guy who supported a princess to her rightful place to the throne. Instead of throwing us primarily into Alencia's point of view, like a typical Fire Emblem story would, we followed a mercenary, a dude with what's considered a normal job. While mercenary work isn't a commonality in our reality, it's still an occupation that allows us, the player, to relate on a surface level, because most of us aren't royalty or upper class citizens. We're typically people going through the monotony of everyday struggles, and we're able to experience the ugliness of the world firsthand. A mercenary experiences that too in their world, albeit more differently and physically. There's more relatability to Ike's tale that's beyond the surface level like that, but we'll get there soon. Storytelling is a powerful tool that can both entertain and send a meaningful message, but anyone can tell a story, and a person is more inclined to be invested in a story or its characters if the writer gives the reader a good enough reason to care. The easiest way to get someone to care about your story or characters is to inject some realism and theming into it. This isn't something I hear often, but I once heard someone say just because a character is relatable doesn't mean they're a good character. Well, that's only true if a character lacks layers, and trying to apply that to all relatable characters is being disingenuous because it's disregarding the nuance. Tell me, which version of Ike is more interesting? Version 1, the Ike we already have, who's a blunt but well-meaning man who feels more real than a prince or princess. A man harboring very believable flaws he had to overcome in order to win. Or version 2, an Ike who plowed through his trials in a typical fashion, stripped of the unique yet realistic qualities in favor of the working formula of a glorified perfect hero archetype. Human beings are diverse and complicated creatures. In order to breathe life into fictional characters and captivate your audience with them, that complexity must manifest in some form. Ike may have had things handed to him on a silver platter during his earliest days, but that didn't undermine the difficulty of his journey after his inciting incident suddenly forcing the mantle of leadership on him, way before he was ready for it. Two of his father's best mercenaries up and left him in his lowest point, and that mirrored how people in real life can just abandon you when you need them the most. When a major event rocks our world and takes us off guard, it's common to be ill prepared for it. The myriad of struggles Ike felt in those tumultuous times following the inciting incident is a mutual feeling that we can experience, one that many of us can resonate with when life hurls us into what feels like a hurricane of misfortune and the fear that's associated with it. Ike growing into the Giga Chad he became in Radiant Dawn was an earned status, and why he's one of the most respected main characters in Fire Emblem. Even when you take Ike out of the conversation, because he deserves a more in-depth video than this one. The relatability of someone like Dorothea or Marianne, two characters I made videos about before, is why they're also beloved characters. Anyone facing depression and low self-esteem can appreciate and understand the writing choices of Dimitri and Marianne. Someone who grew up impoverished, ill-fortuned, or marginalized in life can relate and understand the underdog upbringings of Dorothea, Dedue, Claude, and many others in Three Houses. The various losses that Sigurd suffered in Genealogy of the Holy War can also resonate with someone. When the evils of our world can rip their lives asunder and leave them with nothing in the end. These character arcs are compelling because your average player will have something to latch onto. The more human qualities these fictional characters display, the more you, the writer, can provide a fresh subversion to a particular trope so that it doesn't devolve into a cliche. That's why I said earlier that relatable characters can still be bad if they lack layers. If all there is to that character is a single trait that defines their character, you're left with someone who's just two-dimensional and a clone of another character in the past. While Fire Emblem has its fair share of two-dimensional characters, it's equally rich in characters who can attract various players of different backgrounds. We won't always like the same characters because we're all unique people with distinctive tastes, but that's the beauty of it. If we all like the same thing, that'd be pretty boring, don't you think? But we can all still respect someone for appreciating something in another character that we can't quite understand. Speaking of liking, I'd appreciate it if you thumbed up this video. It'll help my channel in the algorithm. Now, if you'd like to see an example of a relatable character who faced many mental challenges in his journey, check out my video here on Dimitri from 3 Houses. See you there, and stay chill.